recommendation that, hey, this law is outdated or this law does not meet the economic situations that we're in. We really highly recommend that you, as the legislatures, fix this. We'll be more than happy to. And every government agency should be doing that. Every board member in every government agency, right? You are required to, execute those laws, correct? But if those laws, because believe me, I wish that I could, like for example, like in CUC, I understand CUC. I don't know everything about it, but I always try to refresh myself. So I read everything that pertains to the CUC since like the fourth legislature. But do I remember everything? No. But I do go back and I do read it. And whenever there's need to be changes, then okay, I provide, amendment and we propose it to the legislature. But not everybody here has that luxury. But as board members and directors, secretaries, all of those that are supposed to execute it, if it doesn't meet today's, you know, situation, then we would highly, appreciate it if you would come to us and like, Senator Kobri, no, this one here is since 19 Tinaki, section so and so is not meeting, today's economic situation. You know, can we change it? Of course, we can, but it needs cooperation. The same way when I was asking the board members and the staff, do you guys know that NMHC has grant funding for blighted property? You guys said no. It's like, okay, so what have you guys been communicating with them? You know, have you guys communicated with grants management to see if there's any more funding that they could get that pertains to that so that it'll help you, you know, uh, inform, especially residential, like say Tan Maria, for example, that lives on Social Security or maybe retirement, no, but yet cannot afford to get her, I don't know, post World War II housing, that's like half gone. The only thing that's standing is the toilet, but she doesn't have the money to do so. And she doesn't have the know how to do so. But what she does know is that zoning came over and slapped a sign in her property, that says zoning, blighted property. You got to remove it or you're going to be fined. Instead of, Tan Maria, the NMHC, or we have a grant that you can apply for that would cost like $1,000 to get this thing removed. Would you like us to help you do that? You know, but again, like the the vice speaker said, is zoning communicating with all the other government agencies that are involved in something like this? Do you work with the mayor's office, collaborate to help the community? Does zoning work with DPW, building safety, to actually go out there and work with them? No, it's not. Does zoning work with commerce, to work with the business community? They're not. And that is where a lot of, our potential entrepreneurs and people like Tan Maria, are having problems. So I believe that there is a purpose for zoning. Yes, absolutely. Because I definitely do not want a dump site built right next to my house. So I understand that, yes, we do need zoning. But the regulations that has been implemented does not match the wants and needs of our community. And the inability of government agencies to collaborate and work together to try to make it better is not working. So I'm wondering, is the executive department even communicating with each other? No.
Yeah, Rep. Hold
Thank you.
If I may direct the members that let's take this opportunity to ask Mr. Schneider questions regarding his re-nomination. If there's any questions, floor, please proceed. For
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman, can
Schneider.
I just share for the benefit of the members, establish a platform platform is ANEC, ANEC. It's, I believe it's agencies on nuisance and environmental concerns. And it's a very well regulated platform. Not all the agencies that have access to it can report. There are permitted individuals in the agencies that can respond. For example, if Therese is driving and sees a trash bin overflowing with trash, she gets home or she can pull over, get on the phone, report on the ANIC trash can overflowing with trash over here on Middle Road in front of, let's say, a 99 cents store. The other agencies that have responsibility to regulate such a thing would see it and respond. So yes, the executive branch right now are communicating. They have this platform showing how the agencies are communicating. As far as Nadia, who built her house and the water toward the part, and she's now living in half of the house, and the toilet doesn't work anymore. And she has no money, and then zoning comes up and puts the notice in front of her house that it's blighted or it's a nuisance. Again, this body passed that local law, the Blighted Nuisance Act. Nadia is not going to be fined if we find that she is an indigent resident. We have ways of working with her, but we won't slap her with a $1,000 fine. I'm not saying we. The zoning administrator won't slap her with a $1,000 fine or a $200 fine. If she can show us that she is indigent, then the zoning administrator will find ways to work with her. And there are agencies that can help her. We'll call on you if somebody lives in the precinct to see how you can guide her to. As far as the NMHC blighted funding, yes, we were aware of that. We asked Therese to work with the executive or corporate director of that agency. There are requirements for that grant, and I'll defer to her to explain her meeting with the corporate director. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. I now recognize Rep. Marissa Flores, and then we have Rep. Aquino.
Thank you, Floor Leader, and thank you, Mr. Huff-Schneider, for accepting the Governor and Lieutenant Governor or the Executive Branch's nomination. I appreciate you being here. But before I get into questioning and asking you pertinent questions in regard and applicable to the zoning board, I'd like to take this time to really extend my appreciation to your administrator, because I will tell you, just reading and meeting with her several times, she is really at the mercy of the board. And I have my personal opinions about a lot of boards in the Commonwealth, apparently because they overreach their authority. But I'll get into that. At this time, I'd just like to let you know that you have good staff. The problem is even they're confused, I think, because the zoning board's duties and responsibilities really don't give your administrator anything without the approval of a lot of the board's direction. So, Ms. Ogumoro, if you're still in the room, thank you so much for your continued work, your staff, because I really do believe that at some point the abolishment of the zoning board should not be a reason based on personal positions, but really looking at the Zoning Board Act of 2013. So, Mr. Huff-Schneider, you have a very nice resume in front of you. As a chairman, can you give me out of all the functions you have, because you have 29 functions as a board. So as a board chairman or a board member, Can you at least name 3 of the functions that you do as a board member or even a board chairman, since you're still a board chairman as of now? 3.
3, the ESIS is whatever funds are appropriated to the zoning board, and
Mhm.
it gives the chairman or the board the expenditure authority. I have the power to authorize expenditure or not authorize. I conduct board meetings as the chair, and we listen, we consider conditional use applications.
Mhm.
And what else?
There's a lot,
21,
isn't it?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Work with the board members to find ways to see if the law needs to be changed
Okay.
or amended or
Good.
kept.
Okay. Yeah. So you've actually stated 3 out of the 29, so that's good. When you look at number 4 on the function of the board, number 4 says approve, deny, or approve with conditions applications for permits and other approvals provided in this law. Now, we keep talking about a lot of stuff happening over here about confusion and all this undue hardship being passed on to our people, and the tough job of our zoning administrator to really do what is intended for her to do without any overreaching authority of any board member or the board actually. So number 5 says, it's all going to come together at some point. Number 5, the zoning administrator, okay, as her function, consider and approve with conditions or disapprove applications for permits and approvals as provided in this law or, sir, as delegated by the board. Now, as a board member, how would you come to this determination? What do you guys do? Do you have a set policy that allows this, or do you just get together and say, oh, I don't think that that's appropriate. Do you drive there and conduct an investigation as a board? How do you come and remedy this problem? Because you guys do almost the same thing, basically.
Right. It's none of those. I'm pretty sure the board will look at the law and see what is delegable to the administrator.
Not really, because she's the one enforcing, and then
If
she's
you-
coming back to you. But then you also, she can consider. So let me go through this process. If she writes out her approval, right, consideration to you, then how does the board consider that? I assume because you have some knowledge in dispute resolution and administrative law adjudication skills, then that must be applied. And I also assume that with the expertise of Attorney Mike Evangelista, that shouldn't be problematic, right?
I sure hope not.
Okay, so tell me, how do you?
But we look at the law
Uh-huh.
and delineate where the board has sole authority
Mm-hmm.
and where the board can grant the administrator decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the law. We don't make things up when she comes to us and asks us to approve or disapprove her recommendation.
No, yeah, and I understand that.
We should look at the law. I mean, we look at nothing. And if there's nothing in the law that says we can do this or not, then we proceed on the most safest way. The board will take care of it.
Safest and legal, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so I'm just going through your zoning act of 2013, right? So that gives me a description of your function as a chairman. So number 7, part of the function of the board is to decide appeals from the administrator's order, decision, interpretation, requirements, or determinations. Such decisions may include reversing, denying, affirming in whole or in part, setting conditions, and or modifying. How do you do that as a board or a board member?
well, in any adjudication process, there's the plaintiff and the defendant.
Yes, I understand,
right?
Mr. Hufschneider. I'd like to
So-
know what your processes are. How do you do this as a board? Do you have internal policies that guide you, a flow chart that says if you agree, you go this way. If you disagree, do you go that way?
We look at the law
Uh-huh.
and not try, but apply the law to the
Mhm.
facts presented to the board.
which is the composition of you guys.
The board members.
Okay. So you do have internal controls aside from the law that govern you and the laws of the land for enforcement.
We don't have regulations to regulate how we conduct hearings.
Mhm.
We've been trying to put together that set of regulations, but we'll get there. But we follow maybe the courts, not maybe the court's rule or administrative procedure
Mm-hmm.
on hearings.
Mm-hmm.
And we give the parties an opportunity to present their case. The
Mhm.
board receives all the evidence, the testimonies,
Okay.
the records, and then evaluates those and comes up with a decision.
All right. So, and the reason why I'm saying that, Mr. Hufschneider, because this is really a lot of the confusion. We have overreaching authority of a lot of boards, and you have qualified zoning or administrators or secretaries or executive directors that can actually function without any board member. But since you're here, let's look at another issue. As a zoning board, you do have the power to refuse to issue or renew permits, fines, suspend, limit suspension, revoke permits, require payment of fees, charges, or expense, and place conditions on granting or renewal of a permit or other approval. How do you do that? As a
Can
board
you
member?
repeat that again. We have the
Okay.
power to.
So number 11 in your zoning law, your act on, this is the board function. It says, refuse to issue or renew permits, fine, suspend, revoke permits, require payment of fees, charges, or expenses, and place conditions on granting or renewal of a permit or other approval.
Okay.
Semicolon.
Yeah. We look at the facts, right?
So what
we
is
have
that?
to look at something.
Okay.
What's in the application,
Mhm.
the administrator's decision, the applicant's statement,
Mm-hmm.
and we apply the law.
So what are the, can you explain to me what an applicant statement is?
What's in the application, and when we call the applicant in to present their side, their case,
Mm-hmm.
they'll give us facts. We look at those facts, weigh them, and that's the process.
Okay.
Rep. Flores, if I may, again, respectfully direct the members.
I am, and I'm
Uh,
asking the questions based on
The
the
chair
act.
had already scheduled with the administrator that we're going to have an audience with them, perhaps because some of these questions are actually should be directed by the administrator, not the nominee here. So if I may ask the
Actually,
members,
sir, I disagree, Chairman, because my questions were directed at a board member.
I'm going to ask you to ask one more question.
Okay, thank you. Sir, Mr. Hufschneider, number 2 says that the administrator serves at the pleasure of the board. As a board member, what is your interpretation of that statement?
Pleasure, right? If the board disagrees or does not like how the administrator dresses that day, why would you want to be? It's our pleasure. It's what pleases us. But you gotta be reasonable. You gotta look at different things. I guess what you're trying to get at is, let's define pleasure. With all the things that I've been hearing here, all the complaints, all the inconsistencies, it might displease me. It might displease other board members. I don't know how they would feel. But it's not just the board chairman that the administrator deals with, it's the entire board. I have one vote, they have one vote, and we all can vote all the same. We all can vote differently. We disagree. A lot of times during our own hearings, we disagree. We ask different questions. I cannot expect what a board member would ask an applicant or how a board member would take or receive the decision of an administrator, of our administrator. So what pleases a board member and what pleases me or displeases a board member and displeases me are different.
Before I yield my time, I have one more question. Do you think it's okay for the Board of the Zoning to issue subpoenas since our Attorney General cannot issue subpoenas of his own for investigation? Yes or no?
We haven't tested that. We haven't issued subpoenas, but if the statute gives us the power, then the statute still gives us the power until the court says you're stepping beyond legal authority. You got to understand, yeah, I think the zoning board powers, zoning office, and the attorney general's office are two different entities.
I understand, but it's written in your
And,
it's written in your act, sir. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Rep. Flores. Thank you, Mr. Hofschneider, for your responses.
Thank you.
Rep. Aquino, do you use your time for Rep. Ada? Okay, Rep. Ada.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A lot of my questions were already asked, and your opening statement, Mr. Hofschneider, actually answered some of my questions, and I'd just like to take this time to actually tell you how much I appreciate you coming up here and keeping your composure and professionalism. And your statement, your opening statement, actually it's the way I would want any board member to be so passionate about. So you saying how passionate you about your island and how you want to upkeep it is great. That's the kind of nominee I would really like to be on my side. So I commend you for coming here and answering the questions, although it should be only related to your nomination. I thank you for answering all the questions that are here. One of my questions that I actually wanted to ask you was that during your board meetings, are they broadcast live, or is it just how you're currently practicing your board meetings based on your regulations?
We don't broadcast it live. We don't live stream. We don't have that capability now, but it'll be good. A lot of the members of the public would like us to have our meetings later in the evening. Some of our board members have limited time, so 2 o'clock in the afternoon is our preference. But if we have enough funding, and the multi-purpose building, because we usually use that venue, has the capability, then we'll have something like what you have.
Right. So I think that that's something that should be highly considered, given the fact that a lot of people also may not be have the same availability as your scheduled meeting, but then allow the public to actually make comments or chime in. Especially a lot of our elders who aren't able to attend it. If they're given an opportunity, I think that would show good faith effort in your part that you are involving the community in these things. We're all under pressure, right? You were getting scrutinized, we're getting scrutinized about also raising these issues and these concerns. And there are a lot of things that I want to address in terms of what your role is, but given the fact that you're here, as a lone warrior, on your own, I think that it would be only fair and more conducive if the entire board is given the opportunity to also come in here and share their view and help you out in answering these questions and these concerns. So I will yield my questioning for the scheduled May hearing, and before I yield my time, I'd like to also commend Ms. Flora Romero for keeping her composure. I've gone to these meetings outside. I'm sorry, Ms. Teresa Romero. I've gone to your meetings, and although there's only one person, she still continues to go through the entire process, which is probably daunting, but I commend you for doing that. And I hope we can fees in today's economic situation, or either reducing the fees, suspending the fees, or giving them more time to actually work out some sort of payment issue or plan to you guys. But thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Officer.
Thank you. Of course, yeah, we'll take a look at the fees. We're concerned about the fees. Everybody's struggling nowadays, and we don't know what's coming next month or next year. It gets worse than it'll help a lot of people. It's
Thank you, Ricardo. Rep. Aquino.
Good afternoon, Chairman. I want to congratulate you on your renomination again. I'm going to ask 3 questions. As chairman, what are your thoughts if zoning was to be just an advisory agency as opposed to like a regulatory with regulatory functions? And then number 2 is that if memory serves me correct, I think the regulations that were created for zoning were created by outside consultants. And if that's correct, or is zoning amicable to working with the legislature to amend some of the regulations to make it more reasonable for businesses and the community? And then my last ask is that during the next meeting, we have like 4 other election districts. I mean, I've heard the mayor say precinct 2, and then you mentioned precinct 2. You mentioned the Roosters. I know which house that is, and let's spread the problems out to precinct 1, 3, 4, and 5. Precinct 2. I already talked to the chairman, and we're doing something. We're working on things together, and let's spread the wealth around. That's it.
right. Well, yeah, you brought up that subject of which precinct has needs more help. I think it's precinct 3. We have that monstrosity downstairs. I mean, down there along the beach road. We need to take care of that. I think every week that I pass by, I see the panels break off or have broken off. And I don't know where they fall, but maybe the whole thing might just fall on a lot of people down there. I would ask the zoning administrator to take a look at that. The implementation, enforcement of the Blighted and Nuisance Act falls on the administrator alone, not the board. The board comes in when someone comes in with an appeal to contest her decision. But going back to your questions, making the zoning board an advisory body, do you think that'll be effective in any land use control? When I'm on the Public Lands Advisory Board, and that's all we do is advise the secretary. Either she takes it or takes it and throws it out the window the minute we leave the conference room. It require a lot of thinking. Making the zoning board an advisory body wouldn't be effective if we're interested in making sure that roads are maintained a certain width for infrastructure to go in the future or now, and no one's building would be harmed in the process, for making sure that farmlands are available and they're located elsewhere and maybe downwind, so that our little kids that are playing in the yard or in the schoolyard do not breathe whatever pesticide, if they're using pesticides or fertilizers. The aquifers, we need to be concerned about that. So advisory could be okay if we want something more work in the future to try and correct what mistakes would be made during that period of just giving zoning no regulatory authority. The other question was, what was that?
That the regulations at the time of the creation of the zoning was done by outside consultants. So
I'll
Would
speak
zo-
for the 2006 draft. Most members refer to the local law as regulations. I refer them to local law. We drafted, we hired an administrator and a really smart legal counsel from the Attorney General to put together the draft. They looked at the old zoning law that was suspended or killed, and to see what things that people didn't like to put that law or send that law to the grave. And then we had public hearings. We hired a consultant, a planner, to come in to help us look at Garapan. Garapan was the focus of attention by the former governor that put us in. And he came up with different plans. We invited agencies to come and do a planning session. Architects call the process chariot. We'll design and send that plan to different groups for feedback, comments. But we didn't hire an outside consultant to help us draft the law. It was done by a full-time employee, an assistant attorney general, and I believe 5 board members. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Yu. Senator Magofia.
Susan Mossy, floor leader. So, good afternoon, Mr. Hofschneider. Thank you for accepting the renomination. And I have one question, one recommendation, and just a comment at the end. So, my question is, as an existing board member right now, your capacity as a chairman, I'm assuming that you have had some time to review the laws pertaining to zoning and the regulations that was just recently adopted by the board. And based on your review of the existing law that pertains to zoning, do you see any of the sections that you feel as a board member or as a whole that possibly needs some amendment to improve some of the processes that's applicable in today's business needs and residential needs? As you stated earlier, the zoning law was established some time ago, and so obviously with time comes changes. And so you're in your professional opinion as the chairman of the board at this time, do you see any sections of the law that may need to be amended?
Yes. And again, when we come back in May, we'll present a comprehensive proposed amendments to the law. When I came on board 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, we didn't have a zoning administrator, or we had one, but we were in the process of letting her go. But as a board member, my first request to the office was to look at Garapan, the Garapan revitalization area. Road construction was ongoing, and for so long we knew parking was unavailable. There wasn't enough land and road shoulders for public parking. So I asked the acting administrator, and then Ms. Teresa Gomero came in. I asked her to look at that area to see whether the board can do anything in the immediate to exempt the parking requirements in the law for Garapan Core. We looked at that. The board developed or passed a resolution to grant relief to applicants wanting to establish business in the Garapan Core area to exempt them from the required parking. So that was one of the things that we looked at. And then setbacks. Setbacks are important, but we need to look at current times. Most of the lots that I think developers want are small in size, and setback requirements in the business districts should be less than what we have now. For residential areas, homesteads, subdivision, village homestead subdivisions, I think DPL is proposing as Gono homestead subdivision. The lots are much smaller because the individual homestead permittees could not build individual septic tanks, so they have to hook up to the island sewer collection system. So when the lots get smaller and the size of homes that permittees would want to construct, um, that we need to grant them enough uh, land space to build their dream homes. So we're going to be looking at setbacks in the homestead subdivisions. Uh, I know DPO has its own setback requirements that homesteaders should comply, but we'll work with them and maybe have them follow what revision to the setbacks will be introducing to this body to pass. And permitting time, public meeting time, I think some businesses want to get their applications considered right away. The law provides for at least 30 days advance notice of our public hearings and meetings. If this body can help us maybe cut that down so we can have public hearings quicker, sooner than 30 days, we'll submit um, a revision to that section in the law to reduce the publication time or public notice time. There's going to be a lot of amendments coming up.
Great. Thank you for your response, Mr. Hofschneider. And I'm sure this body looks for, zoning actually recognizes and acknowledges the need for some amendments to occur, right, to improve the quality of service that the agency provide and in the best interest of everyone, both the public or the businesses and the residential. It would be great for us to collaborate and ensure that we address those issues moving forward. So that would be all for my question. The recommendation that I would like to make in line with Rep. Adda's recommendation is, I guess, currently the zoning board meetings are not recorded or published online for the public to view at a later time when it's convenient for them. And so my recommendation is I highly recommend to record those, maybe not in real time, have them online during meetings, but maybe publish them out at a later time so that people like us, when we can't make it to those board meetings, we can view them at another time and actually listen into what is being discussed and understand where, what zoning is doing and what we can do on our end to collaborate. And then my last comment, is I just want for the public to know that the proposed legislation introduced by Senator Manny and I co-sponsored, Senate Bill 24-23. I think it's important for the public to know that, it's a proposed legislation. It doesn't have any effect on before the bill is adopted and enacted into law. So I don't want to scare the public thinking that, zoning is not going to be enforcing a lot of the regulations that they have in place. I think that's important for the public to know. The bill is not perfect in any way right now, but I want to assure you and the public that the bill has been referred to my committee as of yesterday, and we will definitely, comments from zoning and other stakeholders to include inviting zoning into the Senate to discuss the bill in more detail and hear from both sides, from the public and zoning, what are some of the necessary amendments that needs to happen on that bill. I think we are all in agreement here that we we need zoning to have structure and order in our community. But as Senator Manny has mentioned earlier, there has been a lot of complaints both from the business side and residential, and I think it's important that we listen. That the bill proposes for a pause of 5 years, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's where it would go. Maybe by the time you guys submit your amendments to the full body, there will definitely be some changes to the bill, if the bill is still necessary. So I just don't want to create this chaos or this panic out there in the community that zoning is at a complete stop right now. And even if that bill does, let's say it does pass and enacted into law, I want the public to know that none of the zoning staff will lose their jobs. I think that's very important. But more, I'm hoping that we don't need to get to that point, that by the time we meet in May, or maybe the Senate will even call zoning in sooner than May, that we will address a lot of the issues and concerns that have been brought forward by the public. So I just want to let the public know that, it's okay. Nothing has changed yet. And we will conduct public hearings to hear more from zoning and the public. Thank you, Floor. I yield.
Thank you, Senator. The floor is still open for the last. I recognize Rep. Magnolia.
Thank you, Floor Leader. And thank you, Mr. Hofschneider. Thank you for coming up here and being open and honest. I think that's what we need. It's communication. A lot of things. There's a lot of misunderstandings that can happen, not just within the government, but throughout the community without communication. And there's frustrating that's building, and we need to have these open and honest conversations about what's working and what's not. What worked last year, what worked 5 years ago might not work today. And with technology and how everything's advancing, we have AI, we have all these things happening in our world. And I think the frustration from the business community is, why aren't we moving with the times and trying to streamline things and make things more easy, less difficult? And it's not an indictment on your office. I think it's the business license and permitting process in general that needs to be revamped. And again, it draws back to communication. And I think what we need to do as leaders is make sure that we get all these agencies together and make sure that they're all operating together and working to streamline all of these processes, because it seems like for however long, everybody just operates in their own silos. And that's what creates confusion. That's what creates frustration. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to hammer the table for the past, since I've been in office, is to figure out how we can streamline these processes and make things a little bit easier, a little bit, more business friendly, but also recognizing the importance of, your functions as an office. You're right. We don't want random businesses popping up next to our residential, homes and vice versa. So we do appreciate you and your work. We do also, I did take the time to meet with Ms. Agomro, with everything that's going on and all the complaints that are also coming my way, and try to understand, what is it? What's the real issue? And I think a lot of it is just, one, outdated regulations, right? And two, communication. So, as far as my capacity as the chairman on the Committee of Commerce, I vow to work with our counterparts in the Senate and create that communication, create that open line of communication, so that way we can get rid of a lot of these frustrations and confusions. And again, even with that, we're not going to be able to please every single business or please every single resident, but if we're doing our job and we're trying to do our best and we're open and honest and have that open line of communication, we can meet each other halfway and at least come to some sort of common ground and common understanding. So I just want to make sure that zoning and your staff there, I met again Ms. Agomro, and she's such a kind lady, and and we understand that she's just doing her job, just like every other ground worker in the government agencies. They're just doing their job. It's on us to work together as leaders to amend the regulations, to make it easier for our community. And I just want to say that I'm thankful that we opened the door, we opened the dialect. Now we know that you're going to come back, have your suggestions, and then we can work together to make it work for our people. And we need to do that not just with zoning, but across the line with all government agencies, because it's high time that we move with the times and we get rid of the stuff that isn't working for our people anymore. So, thank you for your time, and congratulations again on your renominations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Magnolia. So, Senator, if you'd like to respond, you can.
Yeah, it's the economy and timing, right? So what do? I'll go back, sit down with the board members, with our zoning administrator, look at our timing. I mentioned the public hearing requirements of 30 days. We can cut that down, but we need the legislature to change the law. It's like driving on Beach Road, on one lane down south or up north, and you're following, Tan Maria, and she's in front of you, and she's going 10 miles an hour, and she thinks she's going 50 miles an hour, and you're in a hurry to get to your meeting. So what do? Do we take Tan Maria's driver's license away, and take her car away, and tell her you're not supposed to drive? Take the public transportation from now on. Those are solutions that you can keep traffic going, and it's the solutions that we're looking at. The zoning office and the board is always open to recommendations. Should come from you. How do you talk to your constituents, to business people who want to open up businesses, and if they're not satisfied with the zoning administrator's decision, advise them there's an appeals process in the law. Go and appeal this. It's a very simple process. We're not gonna be acting like judges in the court. It's a very informal hearing process, and we can get to an answer if the law permits us to do that. And but it's not the end of the world when someone gets denied. And if there's a neighbor that was given a permit, and I don't know about that case that Representative O'Don was talking about, and maybe I'll take a look at that, but I don't want to get involved at this point. I'll let the administrator. She heard everything that's been said. I'll ask her to go back and review those cases. And if the applicant wants to go to the board, and the applicant still has time to appeal, then that's the next process for her or that applicant to be heard. There's a lot of steps for applicants to move their requests forward. It's not a dead thing, and we lose an opportunity for someone to open up a business. We're with you. We're with Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang. We need businesses, small businesses, large businesses to come in and open. That's what we need. We don't need someone chasing those opportunities away. As board members, we'll make sure that happens too. But I just want to ask for your, patience when our decision goes the other way and someone doesn't get a permit. Then check us, ask us, what happened? Why was your decision that way? And we'll be glad to share the record with you. There's nothing secret that we keep. And I thank Representative Adda and Senator Magovnia for suggesting that our meetings be available online. People can see us. The only thing is, once public comments is over, we can't have anyone coming in and asking permission to speak. But we can be flexible. Again, there's always things that we can do differently. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Floor Leader and members, I haven't asked this body to also consider Mr. Mike Evangelista, who's not present here. He has a court case today this afternoon at 2:00, and the governor appointed him to continue on the board. So please consider him as well as we move along. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Hofschneider. Recognize Representative Palacios.
Mr. Schneider, Jesus mo sini finatomo. Bula sarang pirmu sarang kane bula nu guma ja manti sina malofano. Tungu manu si.
Tungkol terangka
Ay cemented zo.
Engan.
Ay cemented zo ne ja gua structure sagi. Sino nata ne nol ke ko apa na sumu. Jesus mo si.
Thank you, Rep. Palacios. Rep. Patel.
Thank you, Floor. Ralph Schneider, thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you and Mr. Evangelista for accepting the renomination to continue serving in the zoning board. Although you guys get a lot of fire, you guys continue to do the work, but I know that zoning's a very unique situation in the Commonwealth because there's stuff that we need to amend in the law that either has to go to the full body or at the delegation level. So we look forward to working with you guys on that presentation that's coming up in May. And I think that one of the things that we should consider in that meeting also is to include regulations. I know that the zoning law allows the zoning to come up with additional regulations to strengthen the zoning act, but if there's something that we can remove from the actual zoning act to allow regulations to be able to change with times, I think we should take that angle. And then if there's certain regulations that should actually just be embedded into the act so that you don't have to mess around, have to come to this body and also go to the main body, which is the House and the Senate, to address the zoning law itself. So I think that's something that we need to definitely sit down. And I understand that you had mentioned that we should come to you guys for recommendations, but I think it's more important that recommendations come from you guys to us so that we can amend the law to make it either stronger or looser to assist with zoning and implementing its own regulations on top of the act itself. Where you know that in this on this side we don't only just deal with zoning, we deal with the issues at PSS, the issues at NMC, DPS, the hospital. So when we hear complaints from the outside, the automatic blame is zoning, right? And it's unfortunate because that's something that if zoning's facing those issues, they can just bring it up this way. You guys in our position, we consider you guys the professionals. We support the nomination, we approve your nomination, so we should allow you guys to do your job, and in that sense also provide us the leeway so that we can make your jobs easier. So with that, I congratulate you guys for your renomination and thank you guys for accepting the renomination. I look forward to working with you guys come May. And with that, Mr. Floor Leader, I think we should move out of committee of the whole and vote on the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Patel. And that's it. In the interest of time, I hereby move that, or thank you, Mr. Hofschneider. Appreciate your responses.
Thank you.
I hereby move to dissolve out of committee of the whole and get back into our plenary session. So move.
Thank you, Floor Leader. There is a motion to rise back to our preliminary session, and it has been seconded. Discussion on that motion? Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. We are now back in our preliminary session. And at this time, I recognize the Floor Leader for the proper motion for suspension of pertinent rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hereby move to suspend Rule 8, Sections 5, E and D, and Section 12. So move.
There is a motion offered by our Floor Leader for suspension of rules, and it has been seconded. Discussion on that motion? Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion adopted. Thank you. And at this time, I recognize again the Floor Leader for the motion for confirmation.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now hereby move that we confirm Governor's Communication 24-02 dated February 11th, 2025 on the nomination of Mr. Michael N. Evangelista to serve as a member of the Commonwealth Zoning Board. So move.
There is a motion offered by our floor leader for the confirmation of Mr. Michael N. Evangelista to serve as a member of the Commonwealth Zoning Board. It has been seconded. Discussion on the motion.
Ready?
Ready? Thank you, members. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Fada,
Yes.
Representative Aldan, Representative Ato,
Yes.
Representative Aquino,
Yes.
Senator Babalta,
Yes.
Representative Benavente, Representative Kamatsu Diego,
Yes.
Representative Kamatsu Joel,
Ungan.
Senator Castro,
Yes.
Representative Flores Joseph,
Yes.
Representative Flores Marisa, Senator Magofnia,
Ungan.
Representative Manglonia,
Yes.
Representative Palacios,
Ungan.
Representative Rangamar,
Yes.
Representative Villagomez,
Awer.
Representative Yanktamai,
Hungan.
Representative Benavente, 1, 2, 3, Ayoma. Mr. Chairman,
Ungan.
Mr. Chairman, we have 17 members voted yes, 4 members absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 4 members present voting in the affirmative, the confirmation for Mr. Michael N. Evangelista to serve as the member of the Commonwealth Zoning Board hereby passes the delegation. 17, yeah. I said 17 members voting the. Oh, 17. Thank you. Recognize the, congratulations, Mr. Evangelista. Recognize again the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hereby move to confirm Governor's Communication Number 24-03 dated February 11, 2025 on the nomination of Mr. Henry Hofschneider to serve as a member of the Commonwealth Zoning Board. So move.
There is a motion offered by our floor leader for the confirmation of Mr. Henry S. Snyder to serve as a member of the Commonwealth Zoning Board. It has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? Thank you, members. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Fada,
Yes.
Representative Aldan, Representative Ato,
Yes.
Representative Aquino,
Yes.
Senator Babauta,
Hungan.
Representative Benavente,
Ungan.
Representative Camacho Diego,
Yes.
Representative Camacho Joel,
Ungan.
Senator Castro,
Ungan.
Representative Flores Joseph,
Yes.
Representative Flores Marisa, Senator Magofnia,
Ungan.
Representative Manglonia,
Yes.
Representative Palacios,
Ungan.
Representative Rangomar, Representative Villagomez,
Yes.
Representative Yanktamai.
Awer.
Mr. Chairman,
Hungan.
Mr. Chairman, all 18 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With all 18 members present voting in the affirmative, the confirmation for Mr. Henry S. Snyder to serve as a member of the Commonwealth Zoning Board hereby passes the delegation. Congratulations. Let's have a short recess for a photo op with the newly confirmed. Thank you. We are back in session, and before we went into that short recess, we were in item F, messages from the governor. We shall proceed now in our next order of business, messages from the mayors. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, there is one mayor's communication number 2401.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Discussion on messages from the mayors? Ready? Thank you, members. There happens to be none on item H, reports and communication from heads of departments and agency. We are now on item I, House Communications. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, there are 9 House communications numbers 2401 through 2409.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Discussion on House Communications. Ready? Thank you, members. We are now on item J, Senate Communications. Madam Clerk.
Mr.
Ready? Thank you, members. We are now at item K, Delegation Matters. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, there are 20 delegation matters numbers 2401 through 2420.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Discussion on delegation matters. Ready? Thank you, members. We move down to item L, Miscellaneous Communications. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, there are 19 miscellaneous communications numbers 2401 through 24-19.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Discussion on miscellaneous communications. Ready? Thank you, members. Moving along, there happens to be none on item M, reports of standing committees, none on item N, reports of special and conference committees. There is none on item O, unfinished business, none on item P, resolution calendar. We are now on item Q. There is none. We move now to item R, miscellaneous business. Are there any miscellaneous business? Ready? Thank you, members. We move now down to item S, announcements. Are there any announcements? The chair would like to remind the members about tomorrow's presentation by the Eastern Energy. That will be at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you, members. So if there's no further announcement, we are now on item T, and at this time, I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hereby move to adjourn subject to your call. So move.
There is a motion offered by our floor leader for adjournment, and it has been seconded. Discussion on the motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are now adjourned. Thank you, members, for your time.